Hey, Dudes and Dudettes, Mr. Theorist here, and welcome back to another Geeky Archives podcast with the luscious Draven.
Oh, I'm luscious again now, am I?
Yeah, maybe this week.
See how it
And
goes.
also, lingering in the background, we have a friend of ours called Sean. He might be saying some stuff, he might not, he hasn't quite decided, but we thought to give a quick hello and shout out to him anyway.
See how we go, see how it feels.
Say hello, pal.
Hello.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to shake things up a little bit this week. I'm not going to be covering a TV show.
Is your brain still frazzled from the last one?
Oh, Jesus, dude. Like, I'm having to re-listen to all these just to intake all the information. Yeah, so instead of me covering a TV show this time, we're going to be covering an amazing game series that I've been loving since I've been a kid, and that is Kingdom Hearts.
Hence why the sword above your head.
Oh yes, the lovely keyblade above my character on the screen. So the way I'm planning on doing this is I'm just going to break.
You've got a plan?
I always have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be fully laid out, but I kind of have a plan all the time.
Okay.
Where I'm not going to go in the chronological order the games came out. Instead, we're going to go over the entire timeline of Kingdom Hearts.
So you're going to go
instead.
story order, not
Yeah, we're
game
going to go story order instead of game order because there's a lot of stuff. I might hide a few things just because there's
As
the
always.
Reveal at the end kind of
big
thing.
Reveal!
But it'd be worse. So we're going to start off way back before even Kingdom Hearts 1 storyline happened.
Was it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
Not far off, I'm going to be honest. A bit background before we start. Kingdom Hearts is a game series that was created by a Japanese creator called Tetsuya Nomura. I probably butchered the hell out of that
Probably.
name.
I did it last one.
And this game series has spanned many different consoles. We've gone from PlayStation to the handheld ones like your PSP, your Game Boy Advance, to your DS as well.
Now you're showing our age.
Yeah, we really are. And basically, the fun little rule of Kingdom Hearts is even though we've got the mainline games, which always has our protagonist named Sora, which is Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, and the fourth one coming out in the next couple of years. Normally, all the cool lore stuff, the stuff that actually is relevant to the learning everything about this universe, always happens in the sub-games.
Sounds about right.
Always happens in the handhelds.
It's like, if you want to know the story, you've got to play this.
Like, we'll go over this, but there's a point when time travel happens, and that doesn't happen in the mainline games, that happen in the side games.
Of course.
To explain a bunch of stuff that we only then realise and talk about in the main games themselves.
Of course. It's like, this makes no sense unless you play this.
But the way I'm going to explain this story, I'm not going to talk about each of the consoles and stuff, I'm just going to go over the entire story itself.
Who gives a crap about consoles?
Console peasant.
Dude, you're a PS5! You say you're a peasant, you're a PS5!
Yeah, which means he's higher up.
And your girlfriend's got like half the consoles anyway, so...
No, she's only got 3.
Okay. I've probably got more.
Yeah, you're the one who's got more.
Yeah, and you call me a peasant. I've got so many consoles.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting off track.
Choose.
We're getting off track
As
here.
always.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna begin because
Yeah.
we're going to waffle for an hour here.
Oh yeah, standard
Alright,
anyway.
So, as I said, it's not quite a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Instead, it's in the ancient times of fairy tales.
Oh, fairy tales. There we go.
Because for anyone who doesn't know Kingdom Hearts, it is a combination of Disney and anything Disney kind of owns.
So any fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm,
No, literally just Disney products.
which are based off
It's
stories
not
by
just your
Brothers Grimm.
fairies, it's your fairy tales, but it's also any Pixar related stuff.
Yeah.
Toy Story.
And there are rumours that in the later games, we don't know this yet, but for the later games we might end up having Star Wars and maybe even the Avengers might appear.
Yeah.
Maybe, we're not quite sure.
Disney's the
But
conglomerate.
It's a combination of Disney products and Square Enix, so this is like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy kind of stuff. It's Square Enix, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so as I'll start again for the timeline, it starts in the ancient towns of fairy tales, and there was this guy. His name is the Master of Masters, and he is the ultimate Keyblade wielder. And Keyblades are these magical sword type items that also have magical abilities to unlock any lock because they are a magical key sword thing. Keyblade. Yeah. And so he lives in this place called Daybreak Town with his pupils, which are called the Foretellers. And there are 5 of them. I'm not even going to remember all the names because this is all stuff but there are five foretellers, and each of them have like their own group or union, as they're called. And basically, the idea is that they all fight these things called Heartless. Turn that down so that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So they fight things called Heartless, who are darkness personified, and Heartless come from the darkness in people's hearts. And when someone falls to darkness, they lose their heart and become a heartless. They are less of a heart. And it also causes other things, but they don't appear at this point in the timeline, so we'll get to that a bit later on. So these 5 unions are tasked with collecting this thing called Lux, which is like a light, a type of energy power. Yeah, Lux.
Which does mean light.
Yeah. So they are tasked with collecting this so they can become the most powerful union and be the best union of the bunch, because there's like a competition between these different unions.
There is.
It turns out that actually this whole competition is actually a plan set up by the Master of Masters, who has himself been a part of an ancient battle between the soldiers of good and the soldiers of evil. Typical kind of good versus evil kind of thing. And he has basically been fighting against the Heartless / Darkness for a long, long time. But he's come up with a plan that, because the way darkness works is it doesn't have a physical form. It got rid of it a long time ago.
Yeah, makes sense.
But by allowing people to tap into their negative emotions, you allow your heart to become open to Heartless, and you can allow the darkness inside. Exactly, that's what he does. So what he does is he creates this idea of this competition. So everyone, but most definitely the foretellers, who he sees as having the strongest hearts of all of the Keyblade wielders, are going to
are more tempted.
Well, they're strong enough hearts that they can take the darkness in without allowing the darkness to fully take over them. And the idea is that if someone has the darkness taken over them, and then you defeat that person, because that darkness has taken a form, you defeat that aspect of darkness as well.
So the more of them you defeat, the easier it is to defeat the final.
Basically, that's what it is, and he's willing to sacrifice his pupils to to take the strongest of this darkness in, to weaken it in this grander plan.
So it's always the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but the way he does it is he sets up different. He tells each union leaders different aspects of if he tells one person, look, I'm going to disappear one day and you're going to have to take over from the other unions. And so this guy feels compelled to be the leader, and therefore that's his driving force, and that's how he becomes susceptible to darkness, because he must at all costs be the leader and drive everyone to doing the right thing. Another person, he gives this thing called a Book of Prophecies. And the way the Book of Prophecies is it's a telling of all events to come.
Which is what,
and the way it was created, is there was a 6th pupil called Lushu, who has a black cloak. What?
Huh?
Lushu.
I just said Mushu.
Oh, Mushu. Mushu does actually appear in the Kingdom Hearts world.
I know, I have seen stuff.
Oh, you have seen stuff. Okay. So the Master of Masters wears this black cloak, which allows him to travel in dark areas that are controlled by the darkness.
Shadow travel.
Yeah, and only Lushu he is given one of these cloaks to as well. But he has tasked Lushu with a special mission. Instead of being caught up with the Union's thing, he is tasked with taking the Master of Masters Keyblade, which has an eye on it. And the eye that's on this Keyblade is the Master's eye.
Oh, so basically he sees whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, the Book of Prophecies is the Master seeing events through the eyes of the Keyblade, as Lushu will take the Keyblade off and go do things, and then pass it down to his student, and all the way through time and space, all the way across time. Yeah. And that is how the Book of Prophecies is written, is the Master, because he's connected to his eye still, even though he hasn't travelled across time and space,
he can see
all of the events that take place. And he's written this Book of Prophecy, and he's given a copy to each of the Union leaders. And they all know that the final passage is that light will expire and darkness will prevail.
Standard, well, as we were saying with a lot of mythologies, it's how it happens.
Exactly. So the way that they all think the reason they've got to collect this Lux is to stop that darkness from rising. But actually, that is a much later event. But the Master doesn't allow them to kind of know this. He wants them to get caught up in this war.
Yeah,
this
he lets them see little bits of it, but not the whole. He lets them see a thread in the tapestry.
Basically, he's playing chess, and they're all different chess pieces
They're the
on the board.
pawns.
And there is literal representation of this, because one of the trailers, you see two characters that become big aspects, and we'll learn about it in a little bit. And they literally play chess. And the chess pieces are designed to almost look like representations of the characters in the games.
Yeah.
So it is stated that, this whole game series is like two people playing a game of chess, basically. So the Master eventually vanishes, just as the Union start to go to war with each other and the Union leaders start to get taken over by the darkness. Lu Shu vanishes, goes off and begins his mission of passing his Keyblade across all of history so that the Book of Prophecies can be created. The Master vanishes. The world where all of the Keyblade wielders are from begins to become corrupted the more the Keyblade wielders are getting caught up in this war and having this Keyblade War happen. Once the Keyblade War finally happens, no one survives. Everyone dies from it. Except except the person who you play as, who you call the player, which actually does become a very relevant part of this story. So why Lu Shu is being told by the Master, because he's the only person the Master tells the grander plan to.
Of course.
And we suspect he's not even told Lu Shu everything. Also to point out, Lu Shu, because he's wearing the same cloak as the Master, him and the Master, we never see their faces at all.
Naturally.
And the foretellers, they also wear masks, but in a different way. So there's always a fan theory that each of these people who have their faces hidden, that they could be someone that we've already met who has time travelled, because time travel exists in this universe. It's only a fan theory, but it's something people are suspecting. So Lu Shu goes off and does his thing, the Master vanishes, the world gets caught up in a Keyblade War, and everybody dies except for the player character, who meets these two other Keyblade builders called Skuld and Ephemer. Everybody's dead, Dave. Who... Yes, Dave, everybody's dead. So those three survived because actually what they did is the Master came up with a backup plan. He's not just an evil person trying to sacrifice people. What he's done is he's created digital backups of everyone that lived in this world. And so what they did is when the Keyblade War happened and the actual world got destroyed, all of the Dandelions, who are like a special group of Union members, they all got basically put into this digital
So basically
area.
we're all living in a game.
Yes, it does get very like we are a video game kind of thing. So only the player, Ephemer and Skuld, and a couple of other Keyblade wielders actually know they are in a digital world. Everyone else doesn't know this.
No.
And they play through like video game cycles, basically. But they find out that the Master has also set this world to be destroyed as well.
Typical.
And that there's this magical device called an Ark, which will allow people to, the foretellers, the new foretellers, that's what the guys that know about this digital world, they're called the new foretellers, that they will enter in this Ark, and then when all of them use an Ark piece to fly off into the future, because that's what it does, it sends your heart into the future, the digital world will collapse as well. But it will potentially go into like a black box mode. We're not quite sure. There's a lot of stuff.
It's not been revealed.
Yeah, there's not been some full-on reveals, but we do know that the Master gave Lu Shu not only the Keyblade, but a literal black box
To store everything.
which we suspect might be the actual black box that all of the people are in, potentially. And also maybe the Master is as well, because the way time travel works in this world is you have to have your heart has to leave your vessel. And then when you do special things like either have a Keyblade to take your heart out, because Keyblades can do that, or if you use an Ark, your heart can then travel across time and space.
So basically the physical form doesn't, but also sort of like
You
astral
need-
projection.
Kind of, but in order to form yourself again, you need two things. You need memories and a medium. You need some sort of
Some
medium,
sort of physical
representation
physical
of who you
vessel.
were. Yeah,
To
like
inhabit.
a hat, which one character uses,
Yeah.
or the Book of Prophecy, we suspect is the Master and Master's medium, and the memories is you have to have one person who remembers you at that point in time with your medium, and that way you physically come back to the world.
Yes, yeah.
So that's all that, and basically this whole segment of the past is us learning about the Master's plan of trying to get his foretellers possessed so he can defeat darkness. But clearly it doesn't work because that was way back in the past, and our modern characters are still fighting the darkness now.
Yes, yeah.
And the Keyblade is not a unique item. Anyone basically could use a Keyblade if they're pure-hearted, and a Keyblade can be summoned to them, which is totally counters what we initially learned in the first Kingdom Hearts game when we thought there was the Keyblade.
Yeah.
When it wasn't the Keyblade, it was a Keyblade. So Land of Fairy Tale happens. The Union leaders eventually escape the digital world by going into the future, except for Ephemer, who stayed behind because he didn't manage to time travel, and another one called Brain as well. The important thing to know about Brain is that him and Luciu, before Luciu disappeared, made some sort of deal that we don't know what happened.
Deal with the devil.
Potentially. All we know is that Luciu, in order for him to continue his mission, he has to pass his Keyblade onto a new person, but he also has this cool ability where he can take his heart and possess another person.
So basically, he gives the sword to him and then possesses him.
We suspect, or it might not even be that we don't know whether he hands the Keyblade over, possesses someone to watch that person he's handed the Keyblade over, or possess the person whose Keyblade he's given. Because we know who he is, and we'll learn through this video who he's become, and actually he's appeared a few times in the saga. There are times where it looks like he might possess someone but keep the Keyblade, but there's other times where it does look like he's handed the Keyblade over
to someone
and
else,
possessed
and
someone else.
There in the background, watching.
He's possessing more so he can keep an eye on the Keyblade
itself,
and make sure that the Book of Prophecies is constantly being created, kind of thing.
And constantly being fulfilled at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
So once all of that happens and the digital world collapses, Ephemer. There is actually. do you guys know Wreck-It Ralph?
Yes.
Wreck-It Ralph is obviously like they all know that they are video games that exist together.
Yeah.
I know in cyberspace.
Yes.
Yeah, the cyberspace. The fact that there's like connections from one game to another, that actually happens in the Kingdom Hearts world. And the player character sacrifices himself by locking a few darknesses in this in-between space.
Yeah.
And when someone dies, they can do one of two things. They can either die and become reborn, so their heart becomes a new person, and that sometimes you can retain the memories of that previous life you've had, or you become a dream eater, in which case you are locked into a state of sleep until you are awoken, and you can be saved that way.
So it seems inspired by a lot of the beliefs of reincarnation and that.
We have spoken, like, we have read references to Ragnarok. We know that there's a character called Odin that has appeared in this.
So they pull a bit from mythology as well.
Yeah, they do, definitely.
Well, like we were saying, when you were saying about the fairy tales, that comes from, like I said, the Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
A lot of the fairy tales are based off their stories.
Yep.
So, and I mean, I've actually got a copy of that book.
Yeah.
It's about that thick, hardcover.
Because that's got the real Red Riding Hood story.
All Real Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, all.
Yeah, they're never actually as happy as what Disney's made them to be.
No, of course not. Little Mermaid. Oh no, Little Mermaid.
I didn't realise there was any other version other than Disney.
Oh no, Disney ripped off Grimm
Disney
Tales.
ripped off the Brothers Grimm.
They made happy versions of Grimm Tales.
The Brothers Grimm ones are dark.
Yeah, like.
Well, Cinderella basically, to fit the shoes, her stepsisters cut their feet to pieces.
Oh yeah, Grimm Tales, they're not very happy. Like Disney-fied a lot of. When
and
people
also,
say that Disney-fies things, they Disney-fy things.
And also, to punish the stepsisters, I can't remember exactly what it was, but Cinderella does something to them to punish them.
Jesus.
Oh yeah,
wow.
They're dark.
Luckily, Kingdom Hearts keeps to the Disney version.
The Disney one,
stories,
not the Brothers Grimm.
Not the Brothers Grimm versions. Okay, so
That would make for an interesting game.
we know that
more like Dark Souls, more probably.
We know that Brain made a deal with Luciu, and that's how Brain escapes the digital world. We don't know how though. Somehow, we suspect that maybe that one or two things: either Brain became the first one to own the Keyblade and then went off into the world, or that Luciu possessed Brain and that was his first vessel
Yeah.
after his initial.
And then obviously
losing.
just progressed.
Exactly. We're not 100. It's not 100% stated even now at the modern point in history. We still don't know.
Yeah, it's probably going to be one of them constant things that is never fully explained to leave a bit of mystery.
Well, we are getting another mobile game coming out I believe next year. It might be the year after. I believe it's next year though. And supposedly that will give us a lot of the questions we have now should hopefully be answered about this older history.
Yeah, we'll
We're
probably
hoping.
pose more questions. You know what?
Oh,
like.
knowing Nomura, it will definitely be. Anyways, knowing Nomura, the clue will lie in just a random thing that has been in the games for a long, like you know I talked about the arc,
Yeah.
right? In Kingdom Hearts 1, which being the first game, and the stuff I just talked about is like that came out in the last couple of years. Bearing in mind, Kingdom Hearts came in like 2004,
Something like
something like that. And the arc, you actually saw a version of the
Yeah.
arc in that first
that.
Kingdom
But you
Hearts
didn't know
game.
what it was.
But you never explained it. It was the only caption you got was it's a mysterious device. We don't know what it does, and we never got a reference to it
Yeah.
until these games about 3 years ago. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, Nomura, fair.
Well, there's obviously a lot of planning and behind the scenes stuff.
He has so much going on already in his
Yeah,
head. Like,
I
and
can
then
understand
things that you felt meant nothing turn out to have such significance.
Yeah, best way of doing it. Well, like I said, in a few of these with the worlds I've created, you've got to keep things like that.
So where were we up to? So Brains with Luciu, and Ephemer, who's the other one who we didn't use the arc, he stays behind, and when the world collapses, or the world gets destroyed in like a Ragnarok style thing,
Yeah.
he rebuilds the world into a new version. The previous one was called Daybreak Town, and this then becomes Scala ad Kylum, as is the new place. And this is seen as like the place where all Keyblade wielders go to. It's like their favorite place to live, kind of thing, in this ancient
Eden.
times. Yeah, in a way.
Oh,
We don't know a lot about
Depending on
this.
which
All
one
we
you
know is
follow.
that Ephemer built them, and also in this world there's two characters who are really pinnacle characters for the saga, and that is Xehanort, who goes on to become basically the antagonist of the entire saga we've got so far, and Ericus, who is the other one. And they're the two who we saw in the later games playing chess, being represented as different pieces.
Right.
Ericus is best friends with Xehanort when they're young kids, and for some, like but Ericus is focused very heavy on, he believes that darkness is bad. No matter what, darkness
It's
is bad.
black and white, darkness
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Whereas Xehanort, he believes that you have to embrace the darkness and allow Kingdom Hearts, because it's Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts in this world. It's the name of the title, and also it's almost like this perfect
Ethereal
thing.
place. Heaven.
Yeah, we're not sure because each game kind of represents Kingdom Hearts, but then another person summons Kingdom Hearts in a different way, and it almost is viewed as a different thing.
It's like their interpretation.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe.
like we've said before with religion,
Yeah, maybe
it's
that's what
like
it is.
that next stage that people can only guess at.
Maybe because the thing is everyone always wants to find Kingdom Hearts, and it's because the idea is that Kingdom Hearts used to exist in the world, but then it vanished from the world when darkness began to take over. So
Reminds me a bit of the way Lord of the Rings is.
maybe.
Well, the Tolkien world. That's how he does it. Because where basically the Undying Lands, which is basically heaven, used to be on the same plane as Middle Earth,
Yeah.
Numenor, all of them. But then a war happened and they separated. The Undying Lands went above, and then obviously the world just became a ball with basically it became Arda, which is the Earth.
Yeah,
So
it might be. As I
very
said,
similar.
There are still a lot of things that we thought we knew, but then as each game Nomura brings out, we realise we don't know that much. That's the best way to look at Kingdom Hearts. It's a great series. As soon as you think you know everything, Nomura
You don't
comes out
know
with a new
everything.
game, and then you go, oh, yeah, okay. So
So that's how it's supposed to be.
the only important thing about Scala to know is that that's where Xehanort was born, and that the player, when the player dies, because the player, as I said, sacrifices himself and ends up in the lanes between to hold the darkness there. When he dies, he gets reincarnated as a new person, who we are told is going to be the character we're going to play as in the new mobile game coming out next year. And when that guy is old, so it'll probably be the end of the next game that comes out, he takes baby Xehanort and takes him over to a place called Destiny Islands. Now, Destiny Islands is important because this is the same place that Sora, who was our main character for the entire Kingdom Hearts story, that's where he comes from. And there's this ancient prophecy said in the Book of Prophecies that the child of that there is a savior who will be born from the Isles of Destiny. And the idea is that the player character, when they were in the second life, thought that they took Xehanort, who was showing potential, literally took him to the Destiny Island so he would actually fulfill the prophecy of coming from that place.
Basically, they were trying to mould the prophecy to what they wanted.
And he told the kid that this kid was this child of prophecy. But unfortunately, this went to the kid's head, and this led the kid to eventually become darkness. Yeah. And this is where Xehanort comes from. But he did try for a long time to try and be the best version he could be, but he lost some friends during the second mobile game that came out.
With a lot of theology and mythology in that, whenever they talk about prophecies, it's always a case of you try and force prophecy one way and it'll shift completely the other and go completely against what you're saying, what you think.
Yeah.
Because it's simple of you've misinterpreted it.
Yep. So while Xehanort was learning to be a Keyblade Master with Ericus and stuff, and we see that their two dynamics of Xehanort is he's more of a grey area character. He's not willing to condemn anyone just because they use darkness.
He's like, well, they might have used it, but they had a valid reason.
Or just maybe that darkness isn't the evil thing it's that people try and tell it to be. He's willing to say maybe there should be more of a balance to everything.
But yeah, basically you need the darkness to have the light.
Yeah, exactly. As he gets older, he notices that the world is filled with too much light, and therefore there is an imbalance in that direction.
Yeah, so
he wants to interject darkness
to balance it back out,
and start a new Keyblade War, summon Kingdom Hearts, so he can rebuild all the world together. That's a little bit later. So Ericus and Xehanort, they lose a bunch of friends during their journey to become Keyblade Masters. Ericus gets this special Keyblade called the Master Defender, which was also the key. Yeah, well, it's Disney and Square Enix. It's gonna be a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
So the Master Defender is seen as like every good what?
I know.
Shut up!
I know. I'm just thinking Magna Defender from Lost
Stop
Galaxy.
ripping on one of my favourite game series, guys. Seriously.
That's what I do.
Master Attack.
Right. So anyone who gets that Keyblade is seen as like they are the
be all and end all.
They are the good guy. They are the teacher of the good guys. While as the other Keyblade that is handed over is good guy doll. The other Keyblade.
Good guys always play nice.
The other Keyblade that is given is No Name, and that is the Keyblade that's got the eye of the Master in. And that goes to Xehanort. So we eventually get a massive time jump. Xehanort and Ericus end up on opposite sides and stop becoming good friends because Ericus wants to fight for good, and Xehanort believes that maybe there's more of a grey way of going about life, and this eventually leads to his master plan of trying to destroy the world and bring Kingdom Hearts back.
Naturally.
So that all happens, and then we're going to get a massive jump to when Ericus is a much older man, and he's taken on 3 students. Now, most people have basically forgotten almost about the old history and the age of fairy tales, and the fact that all of the worlds before the Master enacted his plan, all the worlds were connected. So, you know when you get different Disney movies, at one point you could have Snow White walk over and meet Ariel or Mulan.
Well, it's like the Pixar theory.
Kind of, yes.
That all Pixar movies are in the same universe.
Yeah, well, it would be that you could literally walk from one to the other.
And with the Pixar theory, there's bits that actually prove that they are all linked. You see little bits.
Well, in Tarzan, they've got, well, at least in the Kingdom Hearts.
Well, no,
I think it actually is in the Tarzan movie as well. They have the Beast China set, don't they?
Yeah, and also the link between Tarzan and Frozen.
Yeah, they've talked about.
There's the theory that Tarzan is the cousin of.
Yeah.
or the brother.
No, he's the brother. He's a brother
or cousin of
the sisters.
Yeah.
Because when their parents vanish, there's two. There's either his parents or their parents,
or some
or
relation.
there's the Little Mermaid one where the ship that Little Mermaid sees is the crashed ship of Elsa and her
or
sister.
in reverse, it's the crash ship of Tarzan's parents. Because it is the theory of either, but also the link between Tangled and Frozen.
I don't know that one.
Basically, do you know in the coronation scene?
Oh yes.
You see Flynn and
yes, you do. I do
Rapunzel
remember hearing about
walking up the road to the ceremony.
Yeah. So many years have passed. Ericus has now become a teacher himself, and he is training 3 new Keyblade wielders. And at this point, Keyblade wielders aren't everywhere. There's very few of them. Heartless.
Yeah, no, I was about to say the same thing. Sounds like Star Wars.
You could see parallels, most definitely.
Yeah, because there was all these, and then suddenly there's only a few of them, and it's like a unique skill.
Kind of. That is basically how it's done. But Heartless and Darkness don't really exist at the moment, and instead they just need to protect the world to make sure they don't fall to darkness. But these new things called Unverse, and they come from this one being called Vanitas, and they're his emotions manifested into physical self.
Because why not?
Vanitas actually is the dark aspect of Ven, who is one of the 3 pupils you meet in this game. This is called Birth by Sleep. What?
Kylo Ven.
Definitely seeing the parallels. Well, not just with Star Trek, with a lot of things.
Well, oh my god, the kind of things that happen in this. So, to kind of breeze over this game, is you have your 3 students. You have Terra, Aqua, and Ventus. Now,
Earth, air, water.
Yeah, basically.
No, that's what they mean.
Yeah, and that is kind of like their power sets as well.
That's
the game.
it's Latin.
Is it?
Yes, Terra is Latin for earth. Aqua is Latin for water. Ventus is Latin for air.
See,
or wind.
You learn something new every day.
Terra, as in terraform.
Yep. And one of the Roman goddesses, basically the Roman name for Gaia, Mother Earth.
Yeah, itself, yeah. So, the importance of these 3 students is the way the game opens up is Terra and Aqua are old enough to become Keyblade Masters themselves. So they're going through their final training to see if one of them, both of them, or neither of them are worthy of becoming Keyblade Masters.
Yeah.
They go through the test. Terra, unfortunately, allows darkness to kind of manifest in him, and for a split second, he almost wields darkness, but he holds it back. Aqua, who has shown that she doesn't touch darkness at all, because Ericus is their teacher, he's like, oh, well, the guy who touched darkness, no, you're not becoming a Keyblade Master, because I'm not letting that happen.
Yeah.
But Aqua, you can become a Keyblade Master. And it begins to divide, it splits the trio up.
Yeah.
Ven is too young, but also Ericus wants to keep Ven where he is for reasons. And basically we find out that during their test, another audience member who watches their test is Master Xehanort, Ericus' old friend from way back. And he manipulates the test a bit to try and cause a bit of chaos. And it turns out the reason he's doing this is because some years ago, he tried to take Ven, because Ven actually is a survivor of the ancient times that time travelled. But Xehanort doesn't know this. All Xehanort knows is that Ven has this, like, his heart is really strong and powerful. And what he wanted to do is he thought, okay, I want to summon Kingdom Hearts, and one of the ways you can summon Kingdom Hearts is to have one being of pure light and one being of pure darkness who match each other, and when they fight, it will summon Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
So what he did is he wanted to take all the darkness out of Ven and create a dark opposite of Ven, so the 2 of them were scrapped. But what it did is it comatose Ven instead. But the darkness manifested into Vanitas, who is one of the villains of this game. So, because he felt kind of bad that he did this to Ven, because he's not a real bad guy. Like
He's a semi-protagonist.
He's an antagonist, but he's an antagonist with kind of a heart. So he hands Ven over to Ericus, as he knows Ericus has 2 other students. So Ven over time begins to gain his consciousness back and becomes friends with Aqua and Terra, but it's seen as like their younger brother almost.
Yeah.
Aqua is tasked because she becomes the leader, that she has to go and investigate these unverse appearances and try and find out if there's any big threat to the world that's happening. Because obviously in the ancient times all the worlds were connected, but when darkness happened all the worlds were disconnected.
They kind of split to protect themselves.
Yeah, and they became almost like their own pocket worlds themselves, and no one in those worlds remembers
knows of the others.
Of the other worlds.
Yeah.
And they all run on their own separate kind of timeline, so it's why you can visit a world and it's like, hey, we're doing the movie plot for this, or we're going to this other world. Oh, we're not doing the movie plot, we're doing the second movie plot, or we're doing a story that was hinted at in the movie plot, but we didn't actually get to see, kind of thing. Because all the worlds have different, almost timelines, and well, even though they're all meant to be connected, it's all very weird.
Multiversal.
Kind of, but they're all one universe at the same time. It's very confusing.
Well, it's the paradox of everything happening at once, but not and all separate.
Yeah, it's very strange. People do say that Kingdom Hearts got very confusing, and it kind of did.
It's sort of like with the Flash when they say the different universes operate on like a different frequency.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably the best way of looking at it.
Kind of. That would
it's all happening at the same time, just at different frequencies, which is why we can't see it.
Kind of. You can travel to each of these worlds if you have special ways of traveling.
Exactly. You've got to have a certain way of doing it.
Kind of how speed. Yeah. So it is kind of like with the way the Flash taps into the Speed Force to enter different timelines. It's kind of like that because there's like this thing called the in-between, which is like the void that exists, and all the pocket worlds exist in the void.
Well, I mean, Doctor Who cover that a bit as well.
Yeah, with the Dalek and Cybermen stuff. Yeah.
They cross over the void, and you can only do it with certain technology.
If you watch a lot of sci-fi shows, you can understand this. It's not that confusing. But anyway, so because Master Xehanort is now becoming an old man, he wants a younger vessel, and he sees that Terra is a good. He sees that Terra is a good vessel for him. So that's why he was there to try and pick which one of the students he could grab, and he's like, Terra looks good. So the whole game is about him trying to. He literally takes his heart and puts it inside Terra. Yeah, and fights with Terra over the fact of who gets to own the body.
Of course. Why not?
Okay, so that's Terra's story all the way through. It's being whispered. Xehanort whispers in his ear and manipulates events slightly. Aqua is, I'm the hero of good. I must protect the world. Then it's like, oh no, my friends are all leaving me. I'm going to follow them anyway, and gets caught up in stuff. And the reason for that is because now Ven's more woken up. Xehanort's like, hang on, now I can do my master plan of Vanitas and Ven scrapping each other while I get a younger vessel, and then I can summon Kingdom Hearts in a young, more powerful body, and I can change the world, and everything will be fine and dandy. Doesn't work though.
No, of course it doesn't.
Good guys win.
Bad guys lose.
Xehanort does manage to take over Terra's body and becomes a new being called Terranaut, Mr. of Terra and Xehanort. And this person actually turns out to be the somebody, because somebodies are us. Full-fledged people who have their hearts and their bodies together are classed as somebodies. But when your heart gets taken over by darkness and you become heartless, your body can also become a nobody. And it's because your body has no heart, you are a nobody. So the somebody, Terranaut, he, after all the events of Birth by Sleep happen, he go to a new world called Hollow Bastion, where he becomes the apprentice to a scientist called Anson. And Anson is curious about the worlds between, about darkness, about Keyblades, because he has a friend called King Mickey Mouse, who has befriended him and taught him about all these different worlds and stuff, and it's made him really intrigued. And so he's been doing a lot of experimenting.
Of course.
Terranaut helps him with these experiments to the point where they start creating Heartless, artificial Heartless, and they're called Emblem Heartless, who have this weird symbol on them, and that's how you can identify an artificially made Heartless and
so basically human experimenting.
Kind of.
They've been branded, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Disney. What do you expect?
So, Terranaut eventually usurps Anson in his position of power, takes all the other apprentices, and all of them transform themselves into heartless nobody. We don't ever see who their heartless are, apart from Terranaut, who creates two. He creates his heartless, who takes on the name Anson after the teacher he got rid of, and the other one he calls Xemnas, which is because the way the nobodies do it.
That's a combination of the one you were saying about. Two of them, I think.
Anson and
no, Xemnas. That sounds like a combination of Xehanort and the Vens something.
Then it's not though.
Sounded it.
It's just his nobody who they both look. They have very similar attributes to what Terranaut looks like. So to understand it is that Xehanort took over Terra's body and became a new being, but with the mind and memories of Xehanort. And then when they divided, they created two new beings: a heartless called Anson and a nobody called Xemnas. And the rules of this world is if your heartless and nobody are killed, then the two come back together and your somebody can be formed again. Now we would think that if the nobody of Xemnas and the Anson heartless were killed, then Xehanort would come back, which is true, but Terranaut can also exist because this is where things are going to start getting confusing, okay? So after Xehanort creates his heartless and nobody, and also the other students have the heartless and nobodies. A bunch of time happens. We don't know really what goes on. All we know is that the nobodies all band together to create an organization. They call themselves Organization 13, and they gather 13 members, so they can do something. We don't quite know We know what it is, but we'll get to it in a second. So now there are heartless in the world. The world's starting to go a bit crazy, and also all the Disney villains are starting to team up and become their own kind of faction, led by Maleficent.
Of course.
We're then going to get a 10-year time.
She's one of the originals.
We get a 10-year time jump between Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 1, where we meet Sora. Sora's on an island with his friends Riku and Kairi, and they dream about leaving the island and finding new worlds to explore. They have no idea that there's actual other worlds out there, but they're bored of being on an island for so long. Darkness appears on Destiny Islands. Kairi gets vanished; she just disappears. Riku gets taken by the darkness, and Sora falls unconscious and wakes up somewhere else. Through learning a bunch of stuff, meeting some Final Fantasy characters named Squall Lionheart, Leon, as he's called in these games. Tifa, basically it's a combination of the Final Fantasy 7 and 8 cast together kind of thing. So he meets them, they tell him a bunch of stuff about how there's a Keyblade, there's Heartless, whoever wields a Keyblade has to destroy the Heartless. It's a very much like, because obviously I've explained all the lore of stuff so far, we know a lot more than even these guys know, because these guys aren't in the know of what's really going on in all this.
They only know snippets of what they've heard.
Yeah, so the way the world see it now is that Heartless have been around for a while, and anyone who wields the Keyblade is meant to destroy the Heartless. But also what they got to do to stop the Heartless from pouring into the world is they have to close the heart of the world, or keyholes as they're represented as.
Yeah.
And only the Keyblade can close these keyholes. Yeah, exactly. I see you rolling your eyes. Literally, that's how it is. And that is the main premise of Kingdom Hearts 1. Until that eventually leads to Sora and Anson, the Heartless, ending up clashing.
Yeah.
But Anson, the Heartless, has taken over Riku's body throughout the course of the first Kingdom Hearts games, making him stronger. Kairi, the reason she disappeared, is she took refuge inside Sora's heart. Now, Sora's special. Because he is more than likely the child of prophecy, but it's not been confirmed yet, he does seem to have this special ability where his heart can just allow anyone in. It's like a refuge for any heart that needs a safe place to stay. Now, Ven, when he was screwed with by Xehanort way back, when Sora would only be about 4 years old, Ven's broken heart needed to find a safe place to live. So it lived inside Sora, which becomes relevant in a little bit. So he takes over Sora's body. Well, not taking over. He rests inside Sora and helps complete Ven's heart, and that's part of the reason why Ven manages to recover and wake up, because him and Sora's hearts help heal each other.
Yeah.
So Sora ends up holding Kairi's heart inside of him until near the end of the game, where the villain Anson wants to unlock the final keyhole and get to Kingdom Hearts and destroy the world. And evil villain plan.
The usual.
But what he needs the 7 princesses, who are all Disney princesses from the different Disney worlds.
Of course.
And the 7th one is Kairi. Now Kairi's body exists, but her heart isn't in her body. It's hiding in Sora. Sora has to give up his heart so Kairi can become awakened, so the final keyhole can be opened. Bunch of stuff. Final battle. You beat Anson. Yay! Everyone wins. Riku's now a good guy again. Helps seal up Kingdom Hearts as it's about to get opened. Riku gets locked in the world of darkness. Sora in the world of light wants to find his friends now. Kairi goes back to the islands where they all come from. She stays there all safe. There's an in-between game which has a bunch of stuff happen in it that's not totally relevant, but this is when Sora first meets the organization, the Nobody People, and they want some sort of plot where they want to mind screw Sora to make him think that they are his allies, and that they want to use Sora because anybody uses the Keyblade, when they kill a Heartless, that heart is released and if someone can manipulate all the hearts, can bring them together to create Kingdom Hearts. Again, another way to summon Kingdom Hearts is to have Keyblade wielder kill a bunch of Heartless and then collect those hearts to summon Kingdom Hearts itself. And that's the plot of Kingdom Hearts 2. But this in-between game is they're just trying to manipulate Sora, but at the same time they're trying to convince Riku to be bad as well. So they're trying to have their different factions. Riku eventually escapes, allows the darkness in his heart to take over, and it transforms him to look like Anson again. When Anson took over, but instead of him being possessed by Anson, he just physically looks like Anson as himself. Because he looks like this, he wants to hide himself from all his friends because he doesn't want his friends to judge the way he looks. Because they're kids, like they have these kind of mindsets still.
Kids are little shits.
Sora eventually beats the few organization members that have this plan because they also want to use him to usurp the other members of the organization and take over themselves.
Of course they do.
Sora beats them, but not before realizing that the plan they had to manipulate his memories was done by a witch named Nominee. Her name's Nominee. Who for some reason has this one specific power where she can manipulate Sora's and friends of Sora's memories. No reason why, it's only Sora and Sora's friends, but only their memories.
Plot point.
Yeah, major plot point.
It actually turns out after this game, because she decides to help Sora rebuild himself, but he has to go to sleep for a year in order to do so.
Of course.
So she helps rebuild him, but she finds out that there's a piece of Sora that's missing in order to fully form Sora back together again. And the piece that's missing is his nobody is missing, and it turns out his nobody is one of the members of the organization. So they get hold of Riku and go, Riku, go fetch us this guy named Roxas. We need him because it's the only way Sora can wake up. He goes, beats Roxas, and Roxas gets put into a digital world to wait and be basically put in storage until Sora is ready to accept him in and wake up. Roxas has his own game, where a bunch of stuff where it follows him when he's in the organization and ends when he eventually leaves the organization. There's a bunch of stuff. They try and use Roxas basically to be who Sora was going to be, but it doesn't quite work because Roxas is like, no wait, I don't want to be this, and maybe I am important and I want to know who this Sora person is. So even though they have to beat him up and imprison him in order to help, at the same time subconsciously he does want to know Sora.
Yeah.
There's also a 14th member of Organization 13.
Because of
Because
course.
people can't count for some reason. And she is like a clone using the memories of Sora and Kairi to make a new person. She's like an artificial being.
A brainchild.
Which becomes kind of a thing where they make a bunch of artificial people. And because she's just like, she doesn't have a heart just like the rest of them, she's seen as like a nobody like everyone else. But just like Roxas, she gets memories of Sora and sacrifices herself so Roxas can absorb her memories, and that's what helps wake up Roxas to eventually try and find Sora himself. So Kingdom Hearts 2 opens up with Roxas locked inside a digital world. He thinks that he's just on summer vacation, but it eventually ends with the good guys being, well, kind of good guys.
Good guys.
basically they're people who want to beat the villains, but they're gonna use whoever they need to in order to beat the villains. So they're good,
They're an
but
anti-hero.
yeah, kind of.
An ends to a means.
Yeah, the end to
Essentially.
the means kind of.
So a guy named Diz turns up, and he's the one who has built this digital world Roxas lives in. Turns out Diz is actually Anson. Do you remember the scientist that met Kim Mickey way back, and was kicked out by Terranaut and all that? Well, he wants revenge on them.
Naturally.
So he wants to bring Sora back and then send Sora after the organization. So he's going to lock Roxas in this world until Sora's ready to wake up, put Roxas inside Sora, waking Sora up, then sending Sora off.
Bada bing,
kill
bada
mission.
boom.
That's kind of his plan. Doesn't quite go to plan.
Of course. Why would it?
And he realizes, hang on, I shouldn't be manipulating people like this. Sora wakes up, realizes, hang on, I thought I won, I thought I saved the world. Turns out I hadn't. All I've done is made it a little easier to beat the darkness, but not quite. So he has to go and defeat more Heartless, but now he has to defeat the Nobodies as well, and defeat all the organization members.
Because of course.
Eventually does it, wins the day. We learn a few things that what did we learn that Namine, the witch who has manipulation powers, that she is actually the nobody of Kairi when Kairi's heart left her body and went inside Sora.
And there's the plot point.
And there's your plot. And that is why she can manipulate Sora's and Sora's friends' memories, because she's directly
one of them.
tied to Sora.
Yeah.
And Namine and Roxas kind of have a cute thing going, even though by the end of the game they both get absorbed back into their sun bodies and don't really become a thing anymore. Yeah, that's... Sora beats all the organization members, stops the new summoning of Kingdom Hearts, saves the day, ends up back on his island with Roxas and Riku and Kairi. Everybody's happy, everybody's fine, except they get a letter from King Mickey going, yeah, we're not done yet.
Of course.
So instead, before we get there though, Mickey goes on a little side quest. Sitting in his castle, he realises that there is something wrong with Jiminy's journal. Jiminy is the cricket from
Jiminy Cricket.
From Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, yeah.
And the whole point of Jiminy Cricket in this universe is he chronicalizes all of the events of each
Basically,
game.
he's the scribe.
Yeah. And for some reason, there's a passage called Thank Namine, which is a leftover from when Roxas was willing to give himself to Sora, and Jiminy's journal recorded that moment. But also, there's a bunch of stuff going on. So what they do is they digitize the diary, Jiminy's journal, and realize that basically by digitizing it, they've created almost a new world. And then, in order to save this new world, they need to create an artificial Sora. It's a mobile game. There's only vague reference.
Yeah.
It's the first time we see, well, actually second, because Birth by Sleep was a side game as well. Birth by Sleep introduced us to the idea of taking over people's bodies, and how some characters might not be who we actually think they are. This one, we learned that worlds can exist inside digital scapes, and
Basically, worlds can exist within worlds.
yes, and that beings in those worlds can become living things themselves.
Tron.
Tron actually does appear in this universe. In Kingdom Hearts 2, you do actually visit Tron, which is like...
The grid.
Yeah, but in this universe, instead of it being created by some scientist person, the grid is actually created by Anson when he was trying to delve into the darkness stuff and everything.
Of course.
That's all another thing. It's worth playing the games because I'm breezing off over a bunch of stuff, but in order to keep this as easy to follow as possible, you have to kind of chop off the fat.
Well,
for
how
some of
long has
this.
it been now?
I really don't know how long we've been going already. It's 53. We're almost at an hour.
Not too bad.
We're not too far. We're not that far from the end now.
You said that before.
No, we're not too far. We're not too far from the end. If I remember correctly, we're not too far from the end.
Been 83 years.
So the mobile game happens, introduces the idea of there being digital worlds that can exist as real worlds kind of thing, and that maybe if you took the Book of Prophecies, which has every information of everything that's ever existed, that maybe you can use that to create new worlds. And so Maleficent, after being defeated twice in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, has decided, hang on, to gain ultimate power, if I can find this Book of Prophecy, which is mentioned all the way across our history, that I can use it to have the power to create new worlds. That's what her plan is now.
Of course.
So we get the mobile game, then we get the DS game, because there's between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, we had like 15 years gap where all we got was side games, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because we get the mobile game and then we get the DS game, which is the DS game follows on directly after, and we find out what the letter was that Mickey sent to everyone.
Of course.
And basically, we thought we defeated Master Xehanort. Turns out that actually we defeated his Heartless and his Nobody, and now his Somebody has reformed, and he is planning on doing something we don't know what. The only way we can prep for it is for Riku and Sora to have their own Mark of Mastery, and that is the name given to the test that Keyblade Masters have to go through. So this game, the DS game, follows Riku and Sora as they're on their Mark of Mastery. And the specialised Mark of Mastery they go on is they have to visit sleeping worlds, which are worlds that were taken over by the darkness, not healed by the darkness, and so everyone in those worlds are in almost like a dream state. And that Riku and Sora going to those worlds and freeing them will wake those worlds up. And while they're doing that, young Master Xehanort, who turns out that when Xehanort took... This is where things get confusing. When Xehanort released his heart to go into Terra, he also... What he decided to do is he had the ability to trap... No, not then. It's when Terranort becomes Anson and Xemnas, his heart becomes separated. And so when your heart becomes separated, when you don't use a special way of travelling across time, your heart can travel across your own timeline. So he travelled across his own timeline to appear to a younger version of himself to tell his younger self his entire plot and plan. And that gave his young self the ability to time travel and create a new Organisation 13 using remnants of Xehanort himself across his own timeline. Yeah, I told you it gets confusing.
Of course.
And on top of that, for people who Xehanort has chosen, he will possess them with an aspect of his own heart, so they are an aspect themselves of Xehanort. So the new organisation will be what they call the true organisation, and all of them will be an aspect of Xehanort themselves. And the reason for this is because Xehanort has decided there's another way to summon Kingdom Hearts, which is to get 13 darknesses to fight 7 lights, I think, if I remember correctly. And then when they all fight, each of them, like each battle, will form like a piece of the Keyblade, spelled with the Japanese symbol for key, which is an X. And that Keyblade is the Keyblade that can summon Kingdom Hearts itself.
So it's the Master Keyblade, basically.
Yeah, but it's called the Keyblade. And the key symbol also is a symbol that every nobody had in their name. So Xemnas, it is Anson's name, spelled in a different order. His letters basically spelled in a different order with an X at the beginning. And Roxas is Sora, letters mixed up with an X in the middle. Everyone who their somebody was, you take their somebody name, mix up the letters and put an X in there. And that's their nobody's name.
Yeah.
So why Sora and Riku are going for their their Mark of Mastery exam and trying to free all these worlds, Sora unfortunately gets caught up in the organization's plan and falls to darkness because they're planning on using him as the 13th and final vessel for the true organization. That doesn't quite work though. Riku ends up saving him, and by Riku saving Sora, he is proving he is a Keyblade Master, and he is awarded the Mark of Mastery exam.
Yeah.
Sora, because he fell to darkness, is not. And instead, he basically loses all of his abilities, all of his special powers he gets, and this basically resets him for when Kingdom Hearts 3 comes on. Sora is a bit bummed out. All the way through the meeting in these sleeping worlds, this is when they come across Dream Eaters. And if you remember, Dream Eaters are when a Keyblade wielder falls to darkness, and instead of reincarnating, they go to sleep. And they can form into these beings called Dream Eaters.
Yeah.
And the reason they form into Dream Eaters is because they have these things called Chirithes. And Chirithes are like a familiar that can hold onto your heart and protect it. And that's what transforms into a Dream Eater. Sora has because his heart is the way it is. We have in this constant hint that every time Sora meets someone, it's almost like an aspect of them stay with him, and it gives him strength and power. But also, we get this hint that if anyone dies through Sora, because Sora holds on to an aspect of them, they could come back. And this is a major thing we learn in this game, is that there is something about Sora, somehow his heart is just this magical storage device that anyone who Sora meets, he can hold on to an aspect of them. So Riku wins, Sora doesn't, but they all know they have to prepare because Xehanort is on his way with his 13 aspects of himself, and he's going to plan on destroying the world. So the good guys have to rally basically their own people, so they have enough Keyblade wielders to fight Xehanort. And what they do is they want to collect the trio, which is Terra, Aqua, and Ven, because they're 3 more Keyblade wielders. But they have to save them, because Aqua, during the events of her game, got lost to darkness. Terra, they have to resurrect, because his body is currently being used by Terranor, who Xehanort basically travelled across time to use as one of his vessels. And Ven, in order for Ven to wake up, his aspect that is inside Sora has to leave Sora and go into a new body. That all happens. They get a few more Keyblade wielders, and this begins to get us set up for Kingdom Hearts 3. Right, this is the final game. This is where we're up to, and this is where we get a lot of reveals and set up for stuff in the future. Oh boy. There's one more game after, but there's not really a lot of expedition for that, so we won't go over a lot of that, except for the little thing we learned right at the end. So, Kingdom Hearts 3, we know what the bad guys want. We know the good guys are here to stop the bad guys.
Naturally.
Sora, because he lost all of his abilities when he was going to get used as a vessel, he has to travel to all these different worlds to basically try and make himself more powerful again. So he is ready for when the Keyblade War, the new Keyblade War, happens. So you go through all the worlds, all the way through, we find out that organization members, because some of the old organization members are used as possessed people in the new organization, that actually they have a lot of, they have ties to old history. Turns out that there's two, a redhead guy named Marluxia and a blonde lass called Larxene. They are actually old Keyblade wielders from the time of Fairy Tail. They are 2 of the new foretellers who were in the digital world, who use the Ark to travel into the future. Yeah. But because they didn't have a medium and no memory, when they travelled into, because the Ark will form you into the future at some point. Yeah. But if you've got a medium and memories, you can form at a certain point. But because they didn't have any of that, they just reformed as like amnesiac people who have no memory of who they were. So we get confirmation how they are them, and that there are hints that there are other people who also have ties to Keyblade War we don't know about. Right. Now we've got this other guy in the organisation, his name's Braig. Now we knew from the Birth by Sleep, which is the Terra, Aqua and Ven game, that he made a deal with Xehanort way back then, that he was going to help Xehanort with his plan, and then Xehanort was going to let him have the Keyblade. For some reason he knows about the Keyblade, and he constantly makes hints about knowing about the Keyblade. We find out by the end of that game, because I'll breeze over a little bit. So they beat all the organisation members, but this one organisation member, Braig, turns out to actually be Luxu from way back, and this is just the latest vessel he has taken over. Yeah. And that Xehanort and everything Xehanort did, he actually manipulated, because that is part of the Master and Master's overall plan that he has in motion.
Basically, the player was being played.
Basically. The line in the Book of Prophecies that said light will expire and darkness will prevail talks about this Keyblade War that Xehanort has set up, and that he won. The war happened, Xehanort won. All the Guardians were beaten. The only one that survived was Sora, but even he was defeated, and he went to basically a heaven place called the Final World, which is a place that all hearts go to before they go to wherever they need to go, whether they reincarnate, become a Dream Eater, whatever. He goes there and he's like, no, I don't like this. And so Keyblade Master, when someone becomes a Keyblade Master, they unlock an ability called the Power Awakening, which means that you can use another person's heart as a way of travelling to where that person is. Sora goes, I don't like losing, and so uses the Power Awakening to break time and space. And basically, because he's in the final world that has no point of time,
there's no time, he sees all.
He travels to, using the heart and connections he has, because he has a strong connection to everyone, to travel to just before the Keyblade War ended and everyone lost, and basically saves all the Guardians. But by doing so, he's basically rewriting history, and that's not allowed. And so he is told that, okay, cool, you won, you beat the bad guys, but now you've got to be punished.
Yeah.
And he is punished by being taken out of reality. And the Kingdom Hearts 3 ends with Sora disappearing. No idea what the hell has happened. And then we get the final game that's ever come out called Melody and Memories, which is a rhythm-based game where you press. It's kind of like Guitar Hero kind of thing. And basically, Kairi is the main character in this, and Kairi and Riku are trying to figure out what the hell happened to Sora. And it turned out that long ago, when Kairi was a little girl, when she was a princess, Terranaut, way back then, put her in an ark and basically said, look, our world is dying, but I need you to find a strong Keyblade wielder so you can be protected and eventually our world can come back. And that is why Kairi ends up on Destiny Islands with Riku and Sora, because she was drawn to Riku, not Sora, because Riku is actually the destined Keyblade wielder, not Sora. But because Riku was falling to darkness, the Keyblade jumped to Sora as the next viable candidate because Riku was
Riku needed
possessed. He needed to get rid of the darkness before he become a Keyblade master himself. So they both go on their own journeys to try and figure out what the hell happened to Sora. And eventually we find out that Xehanort also knows about this thing, as well as the Master of Masters from way back knows that not only does the Kingdom Hearts universe exist, but on the other side of their reality is unreality. And unreality is where it looks more like you get your Final Fantasy games. It's like a different universe completely. And if anyone breaks the rules,
they get sent
there, and that's where Sora has ended up, and that is where Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to eventually get to. But it's hinted at that the Master and Master wanted everything that happened so far to happen so he can either gain access to unreality, or he ended up going to unreality at first, maybe when he broke the rules way back and needed a way
to get
back. And only through Sora going there could he find a way back. That's what I reckon probably happened. Is that he needed all
basically
of these
Sora created the bridge between the two.
Yeah, because he was locked there otherwise on his own.
Yeah.
That's a very quick rundown. Done within an hour and 10 minutes of the entire Kingdom Hearts story. Now, like I've done with all my other video, guys, I've talked for a bit, but I've definitely breezed over. Go play Kingdom Hearts. The entire saga. On PS4 and PS5 and Xbox now, you can actually get the entire collections, and that includes all the mobile games and stuff that have all been remastered either as movies, if they couldn't translate the gameplay over.
Yeah, because it is difficult to do that.
Or, like the DS game, has actually had a full remaster into a PS4 game. So the big collections, they're amazing, worth the play, especially to get you set up for Kingdom Hearts 4, which looks so good. And because in the trailers we've seen, it looks like the forest moon of Endor from Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
There is a scene that looks like that, and that's why people are like, oh, unreality. This is like people are suggesting that reality is where all the video games exist, like Wreck-It Ralph.
Unreality is the movie.
And unreality is movie or more realistic stuff that happens. And this might even be where some of the Final Fantasy characters come from, because another cool thing is that Unreality, we saw the world from Unreality that we see is a place called Verum Rex, and Verum Rex looks a lot like Final Fantasy 13, which is a game that Tetsuya Nomura was in the process of creating. I think it was actually Versus 13, that was in development hell for so long. Eventually Nomura lost the rights to carry on making that game, and that game eventually became Final Fantasy 15 that got made a couple of years back. But it looks like Nomura still wants to, at least to some degree, create that world that he wanted. Yeah. So he's got to the point where the Kingdom Hearts story has evolved to now incorporate his vision of this Final Fantasy world. And maybe some others as well. And that will also explain how Disney can push Star Wars and Marvel stuff into this, in this other reality that exists. So that is Kingdom Hearts. think I went over
I thought you said it
everything.
was complex.
Hey, I don't think it's that complex. Like, you watch anyone that talks about Kingdom Hearts, they generally do say that it does get, like, Kingdom Hearts stuff, like, all the time travel stuff, like, the first couple of games never even hint at any of that.
Yeah.
And then we get a side game that talks about time travel, and all of a sudden time travel's freaking everywhere!
Yeah.
And reality breaking, and
It's because that's the
all sorts
it's
of
the big
stuff.
thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's Kingdom Hearts, and it's fun, it's worth a watch. Worth a watch if you're going to watch someone play it.
She struggled a bit there.
It's even more worth a play if you get the chance, guys. It's really worth a play.
Or just listen to him ramble about it.
Or listen to me ramble. I don't mind. Come chat if you guys want. I will start making some videos and we'll experience Kingdom Hearts as a group. I don't mind. Kingdom Hearts is fun. It might sound silly being Disney and Final Fantasy merged together, but it works. It
Yeah, sometimes
really,
opposites
really
attract.
works. The only time it's been a bit is the fact it seemed like Disney got very iffy about the kind of movies that could be used in Kingdom Hearts 3, and that's why Kingdom Hearts 3 was in development hell for so long. Like, as I say, there was like 15 years between 2 and 3, and it's crazy. Because we had a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 back in 2015, I think?
Not to mention, the main guy has been working on Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and he
So-
works on the new Final Fantasy games as well, doesn't he? 7 actually has a lot of time travel shenanigans happening in the remake as well, doesn't it?
Timeline,
Yeah. Some people are suggesting that the cloud that we see in the Kingdom Hearts games
Yeah.
might actually be the same cloud that's in the remakes.
Yeah.
And during the time travel events, he gets caught up in the Kingdom Hearts events taking place.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. It means
Yeah.
Nomura is creating like his own mini universe
Yes,
of games.
yeah.
Which is quite cool. I think I've covered everything. Is there any questions, guys? Do you feel like there's anything that piques your interest?
No.
No, I think you've covered it all, and obviously throughout it we were talking. And brain melt.
Jeez, there is a lot. It's a really good game saga though.
The thing is with game sagas like that, they need the lore to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Oh well, the thing is, all the stuff I talked about, like the Age of Fairy Tales and stuff, all of that happened in 2 mobile games.
Yeah.
Which, for a long time, nobody played. The only reason most people know about it is because you have really good YouTubers that make some really good videos on it. People far better than me, like Damos 0279. He's one that's worth watching. Like he does really good. He's actually taken all of the story footage from the mobile games
And basically
actually
put it
turned them
into movie.
really good. He's even like working currently on doing an actual dubbed, because he's getting a bunch of people to actually do voices, because these mobile games don't have actual voice acting in it.
It's just you just see the words.
But he's planning on making a voice version
nice.
of it to because obviously with Kingdom Hearts 4 coming up, you're going to need to know what
You're
the
gonna
hell
need to know the
happened in all
history of
these
the
other
lore.
games
Yeah.
in order to understand what the hell's going on in this future game.
Yeah.
Because Nomura can't make it easy for any of us.
Of course not.
So I played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and was like, I can't wait for it to come out. And then I remember back in school looking at a bunch of stuff online and being like, what? What? I feel lost. But that's Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have, please hit that like button. Leave a comment. Tell me, guys, if you've enjoyed Kingdom Hearts, which is your favourite Kingdom Hearts game, or favourite game in general.
Yeah, try and pick a favourite sword from it as well.
If Sean turns back up again, maybe we'll do. Maybe we'll pick his brain on some games he's played through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See
maybe.
what's what.
I believe next week we are covering demonology.
Angelology.
Angelology from Christian faith.
Yep.
Alright then. I look forward to it.
Oh, it's a good one.
Eventually we're going to break down Westworld, but I need to rewatch Westworld all the way through to feel I have the confidence to give you a decent breakdown of the entire story of it. So that'll probably be coming in a couple of weeks after we've done your first one, Angelology.
Yep.
So I look forward to doing. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will catch you later. It's bye from me.
Bye.
Oi!
Bye.
Goodbye to the audience. See you later, guys.
Bye.